Chair lays out Senate Bill 3 as pending business. Senate Bill 3 by Senator Swartner and sponsored by myself relates to preparing for, preventing, and responding to weather emergencies and power outages, increasing the amount of administrative and civil penalties. Chair offers up committee substitute to SB3. Is there any objection to the adoption of committee substitute? There being no objection, substitute is adopted. Members, I know you just got this not that long ago, but obviously we're moving along here. I wanted to run through, and certainly I'll answer any questions, just kind of a side-by-side, and we can also, if we have not already, supply your offices with a side-by-side to show you the differences between the committee substitute and the engrossed version, Senate engrossed version. But very similar in a lot of ways, but I do want to highlight just a few quick changes in here. One being in Section 3, dealing with the gas weatherization, and on that one, in the substitute, we require the PUC and Railroad Commission to work together to designate critical natural gas facilities as critical and subject to weatherization standards. This will be done in conjunction with the Mapping Council's final results. Also requires that any natural gas producer self-designating their facilities as critical be required to weatherize those facilities. And so we had a few changes in there to do that. Another difference, Section 13, quite a bit different. In the substitute, we define ancillary services. Maybe most importantly, we require PUC to make a holistic view of ancillary services to determine whether the services meet the needs of the market, whether we need additional services, and ensure that costs are recovered on a non-discriminatory manner, but also in line with cost causation of such services. So that was a fairly significant change. Section 14 adds requirement for PUC and Railroad Commission to work together to establish a process to designate appropriate natural gas facilities as critical. This information must be shared with co-ops, MOUs, and TDUs for consideration in their load shedding plans, but these entities retain discretion and prioritization of power delivery and restoration. In the Section 15, dealing with the Electricity Mapping Committee, the substitute says the Texas Electricity Supply Chain Security and Mapping Committee will set up a committee to map the state's electricity supply chain, identify critical infrastructure sources in the supply chain, establish best practices to weatherize those facilities, develop a communication system between critical infrastructure, PUC and ERCOT, also composed of, it'll be composed of the PUC, Executive Director, Railroad Commission Executive Director, ERCOT CEO, and TDM Chief. The map must be updated at least once per year and provides a report to the legislature by January 1st, 22, including an overview of the findings regarding mapping the supply chain and identifying critical infrastructure. Recommend a communication system for PUC or a Railroad Commission, TDM, and ERCOT, and best practices for weatherization. Section 16, it's dealing with wholesale index pricing. It removes the ban but inserts tougher consumer protections. Bills cannot be more than 200% of the monthly average price of electricity in the prior year. Reps must provide notice of the highest possible bill for the next 6 months at sign-up, as well as monthly update for the next 6 months. It also allows a customer to switch plans at the start of any month without penalty or charge, and it provides a definition for small commercial customers. Section 17, dealing with dispatchable generation. This is more or less some intent language as we seek to address the challenge with dispatchable generation. It defines dispatchable generation, and then it goes on to require PUC to establish requirements that, 1, meet the reliability needs of ERCOT region, 2, periodically determines the quantity and characteristics of ancillary and reliability services necessary during extreme heat and cold conditions, 3, procure ancillary services on a competitive basis to ensure reliability during extreme heat and cold, 4, develop a performance requirement and penalty for failing to meet those requirements, and 5, size the services to prevent prolonged rotating outages due to high load variability during high demand, low supply scenarios. Skipping down to Section 26 in the committee sub, which deals with the water utility weatherization. The substitute requires water utilities to adopt and submit to TCEQ an emergency preparedness plan to ensure the operation of its water system during an extended power outage at a minimum of 20 psi. those plans should utilize one of a number of methods for providing backup generation in the event of an extended power outage. It allows affected utilities to exclude non-critical infrastructure from this plan. Section 29, dealing with the water billing collections. Water billing removes heat requirements, only leaves in cold. And that is the summary of the changes. Does anyone have any questions on any of that? Ms. Howard?
Not a question so much as just thank you for looking at so many things here and trying to pull this together. I know this is a bear of a bill, but it sounds like, and I've only had an opportunity to review it briefly at this point in time, but it sounds like you've incorporated a lot of the suggestions that people had. I'm sure there's probably some more that people are going to want here, but I was particularly interested in the gas infrastructure and looking at what we could do there for a weatherization, critical infrastructure, weatherization and enforcement. That's there. Looking at the ancillary services and making it more holistic was also a thing I was looking for. So I really appreciate all the work you've put into this. It's really a huge step forward, I think. And so I look forward to continuing working with you on it, but I'm very appreciative of what you've done at this point in time. So thank you. Thank
you, Ms. Howard. We have incorporated a tremendous amount of input from lots of stakeholders. As you might imagine, they continue to have suggestions. And certainly, as we have been throughout the process, we'll continue to entertain those and happy to have those conversations. And there could very well be some things that we need to address on the floor. Even first and foremost, with a bill this size, a lot of times, and we were really pushing to get this thing out as we all been waiting on it for a little while. Sometimes there's little errors in drafting and things like that. So obviously, we'll have to clean some stuff up there. But we'll continue to visit with the stakeholders throughout, and our goal is to get this on the floor as soon as possible so we can get this thing wrapped up. And we know that this is a critical piece of legislation that when we all came in at the beginning of the session, we all collectively made a commitment to address a lot of the challenges that we identified in our early hearings. And I think we largely have a product now that does that. And so I really appreciate all of your efforts in helping us to put this together. Members, any other questions? All right, if not, the chair moves that SB3 as substituted be reported to the full House with a recommendation that do pass and be printed. The clerk call the roll.
Patty.
Aye.
Hernandez. Smithy. Aye. Desto. King. Aye. Raymond. Aye. Hunter. Yes. Howard. Aye. Lucio. Aye. Metcalf. Yes. Shaheen. Aye. Harless. Yes. Slauson. Aye. 13. 13 ayes, 0 nays. The motion prevails. Thank you, members.